watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Well, good morning to you and welcome into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer and thanks for joining us on this Thursday morning live on Fox Local and on YouTube. A big day in the Florida governor's race today as we expect Orange County Mayor Jerry Demings to make an announcement later today at a rally in Orlando where he will announce his candidacy on the Democratic side of things for the governor's race. We've been talking a lot this week about that governor's race as things really start to heat up. Yesterday, had a conversation with former Congressman David Jolly, who's also running on the Democratic side. And we are pleased to be joined this morning by one of the Republican candidates, and that is Congressman Byron Donalds, who joins us live now via Zoom. Congressman Donalds, good to talk with you. We appreciate you joining us this morning here on Fox 35 News Plus.
It's my pleasure to be with you.
Congressman Donalds, first of all, I want to get your reaction to the breaking news this morning about former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi announcing that she is not going to run for re-election to the House. President Trump, according to Peter Doocy, said she was evil and corrupt. And I'm just curious your thoughts on her not seeking re-election, that breaking news this morning.
This is something that's long overdue. This is why I support congressional term limits. We cannot have members either party be in Washington for that long because they become addicted to power. You know, I've been in Congress now. This is my third term. When I ran for Congress back in 2020, I told my district, you get 10 years max out of me, and then I was going to move on because it's not meant to be forever. Nancy Pelosi is one of the most destructive speakers in American history. I mean, people need to examine what's going on in healthcare right now. Premiums are through the roof. Deductibles are through the roof. People can't afford the health insurance they have. And Nancy Pelosi was one of the key architects. And so as far as I'm concerned, it's about time that she left.
You talk about moving on. Your goal is to move on into the governor's mansion in Tallahassee. So let's talk a little bit about that. And I want to first talk about kind of big picture here on the Republican side of things in these campaigns, because with the elections that we saw on Tuesday, a good night for Democrats in several states. And I wonder if there are lessons to be learned on the Republican side from those results, or any adjustments to messaging as a result of what we saw on Tuesday night in some places here in Florida and across the country.
Well, there's always lessons to be learned. I would say the first one is your candidate, whoever they are, they have to be able to be in every room and campaign for every vote. When you're campaigning for office, I don't really care what level you're talking about. There has to be a no stone left unturned mindset. You have to be willing to go and have these direct conversations. I think two, grassroots organizing, being on the ground, turning people out, that is a core function of any election, no matter if it's a presidential, an off year like what we saw on Tuesday, or even in the midterms. But I think too, about the messaging going forward, you know, we have to be focused on affordability. Affordability is still an issue in America. It's a major issue in Florida. And the voters need to be fully aware that these affordability issues were created by radical Democrat policy, like a Nancy Pelosi, like the two gentlemen who were running on the Democrat side of the aisle to be the state's next governor. They supported all these radical policies, which have increased costs on the American people and on the people of Florida. And so what it's going to require in terms of leadership going forward are common sense, conservative economic policies that produce price stability, drive costs down, and allow people to be able to thrive and succeed here in Florida and throughout America.
I want to drill down more on that affordability issue here in just a minute, but Jerry Demings is expected to make his announcement at a rally later today. We know he officially filed and is in this race. You released a statement calling him woke and weak and wrong for Central Florida. What do you mean by that?
Oh, it speaks for itself, actually. Jerry Demings has supported transgenderism with boys and women's bathrooms, boys and women's sports. He spent the money of the money of Orange County to support DEI policies, more than $200,000. These are things that are not in lockstep with where the people of Florida are and what they want to see going forward. What Floridians want is a state that's still going to be committed to law and order, a state that's going to be committed to common sense economic policies that work for everybody and that are committed to a strong economy. And so what Mr. Demings, his career has demonstrated is that he's far more in line with Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi than he is with Governor DeSantis and what people of Florida have been wanting to see and have actually been moving to Florida to be a part of. And that's the best state in the country.
I want to ask you about the potentially historic nature of the general election. If you are the Republican nominee and Jerry Demings is the Democratic nominee, it would be the first time there have been two black men facing off, as nominees of major parties for the governorship. What does that mean to you?
What it means to me is that we are a meritocracy. That's what it means. It means that people in our state and frankly people all across the country, we are more focused on what people can actually get done. What are the positions that they stand for, the positions that they believe in, and are they going to go fight for them? That's what it means. And I think that in our state, through my time in politics, but it's not just me, it's so many others. Florida is a meritocracy. We just want to make sure that you're going to stand for truth. You're going to stand for right policy. You're going to stand for common sense. And as long as you demonstrate that you can do that and you're committed to that, the people of Florida will support you. So that's what it means to me. Obviously, both being black men, that would be historic for our state, but that would just be historic for the state. What it really means about Florida is that people just want competency to reign. They want a great state. They want that to continue. They want great opportunities for their kids, for themselves. And they just want to be able to live in a state that's the best in the country. And that's what we're going to provide and maintain as the state's next governor.
Let's talk affordability here because you mentioned that being an issue that was on voters' minds on Tuesday. We know polling shows it as a big issue on voters' minds here in Florida. Many say that the state's going through an affordability crisis right now. How would you work with the state legislature to address that if you were governor?
We would be meeting nonstop to pull back the curtain and address every aspect of state and local government. Let me give you a few examples. Obviously, Governor DeSantis is pushing very hard for eliminating homestead property taxes in our state. This is something I do agree with the governor on. Looking forward to seeing his proposal and being able to support it. One of the other things around that proposal, we're going to have to make sure that our sheriffs, our firefighters, our emergency personnel, road maintenance, and a lot of those issues that local government has to deal with, that we can continue to pay for those. But we got to give people relief. Number two, insurance. Insurance rates in the state look like they're starting to come down. Auto insurance rates are starting to come down. It looks like some of the property and casualty rates as well. We have to continue those policies to keep those rates down and to drive them further. If you're anybody who pays a mortgage, if your taxes and insurance are equal to or higher than principal and interest, you have a problem. And in certain parts of the state, that is a reality. So we have to get those two under control. Number three, permitting. Local government permitting adds unnecessary costs to construction projects all through the state. Talk to any contractor, talk to any developer. If it takes you 2 to 3 years to put a shovel in the ground, what happens is you have dead money in those projects, and that dead money is not free money. It just ends up in the retail costs of whatever you're developing. So we have to have a modernization of all of Florida government top to bottom to bring the efficiencies necessary so you can squeeze unnecessary costs out of a lot of these projects. And those costs are really just government derived costs. It's not concrete. It's not copper. It's not labor. That's just government. And we have to get that out of the way. So those are three things as an example. But we have to do that, and we have to do much more.
You talk about the property taxes, and we know Governor DeSantis has criticized the way the House is handling this, where they basically had a bunch of proposals and are saying we're going to kind of see, what all of them do and what the voters might have to say about that. What do you think about that kind of strategy about this? And do you think that's a wise way to do it, or do you agree with Governor DeSantis on that?
Well, look, I would urge the governor and the legislature to sit down and put pen to paper and work this whole thing out. I think there's a real pathway to doing that. For something this monumental with around the tax structure in our state, I think it's very important that everybody's on the same page. I know the House has their proposals. We'll see where they go. That still has to get approved by the Senate. So we are at the starting point here. Nothing is done. I know the governor is going to be releasing his proposal soon. I look forward to seeing that. But I think it's going to be important for the governor and the speaker and the Senate president to be able to get together, come up with one solution that can go in front of the voters. I think that's going to be critical.
Last thing here, Congressman Donalds, and we appreciate your time here. It is day 37 of the government shutdown, and there are a lot of families here in Florida hurting for a variety of reasons, whether it's SNAP benefits, whether it's working without a paycheck, whether it's being furloughed and so not receiving a paycheck right now. What is your message to those families who are finding themselves in a tough time right here in the Sunshine State right now?
My number one message is I am so sorry you are being caught up in the political games of Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats. They've had 14 opportunities to vote to reopen the government, and they have refused every single time. We have airlines all across America who are now going to put out notice about flight delays, and those flight delays are going to have major impacts for our economy. And then you have companies that do some work in part dealing with the federal government, where they're not getting the money that they need for those projects that they've been doing so they can pay their people. This is incredibly unfortunate. I know my Republican colleagues in the Senate, they have put forward proposals to pay federal employees to actually be able to pay SNAP and WIC benefits, and that has been refused by Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats. So I would actually urge Mr. Demings and Mr. Jolly, they need to go talk to their Democratic colleagues in Washington, D.C., because this obstruction, just so you can score political points, is not working for the American people. It's not working for the people of Florida.
Congressman Byron Donalds, Republican candidate for Florida governor, we appreciate your time this morning. Thanks so much for joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday morning, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. Robin Severance Lopez was in court this morning. She is the estranged wife of the suspended Osceola County Sheriff Marcos Lopez, the two of them among several facing charges in connection with this alleged illegal gambling ring. She was in court today, was scheduled to have a trial next week. Fox 35's Marley Capper joins us live now with the updates, because we now know, Marley, that trial is not going to happen next week. What happened in court today?
Garrett, it's definitely not gonna happen next week. Good morning to you. So we were there in court this morning. We watched as Robin walked in with shackles on her ankles, and she was handcuffed, of course, in that orange jumpsuit that you see there. And she didn't really say much. The judge did swear her in to make sure that she understood what was going on. Basically, the defense asked right away, can we push things back? They said that the state had provided them with a lot of new discoveries with half a terabyte, so 500 gigabytes of evidence, whether that's videos, body camera footage, recorded calls, emails, anything that you can really think of. She's saying that they provided for them yesterday and then one about a week ago. And so she said it was just too much to review in one afternoon and that they wouldn't be prepared come Monday morning. And so that they asked the judge to push back that trial date. The state then said that they really wanted to have a speedy trial and that they said, well, they could have had access to the discoveries. And so in a sense, there should be an excuse, but the judge agreed and said, no, I don't want to rush them into this. I want to make sure that they have enough time to be prepared. And so they just basically pushed back the trial until December 8th. So it'll be about a month from now and a few days there. And we did end up talking to Lopez's attorney after the fact to kind of hear her thoughts. I'll let you guys play that video so everybody can kind of hear what she had to say.
In the last week, we've received 2 or 3 new discovery exhibits. Actually, 2 this week, 1 last week, sending just a ton of new discovery, body-worn camera, jail calls, a half of a terabyte phone extraction, just a ton of discovery, most of which arrived yesterday afternoon.
And she rejected a plea offer. Talk about why she rejected that offer.
So the state is proposing that she plea and become a convicted felon, and we just both feel like that's inappropriate given the facts here.
Can you talk about what that plea deal was? Can you go over those details?
Sure. The state's offer was that she would plead to a lesser offense of money laundering on the conspiracy case, which is a third-degree felony. She would also plead to the new case. There would be a felony conviction entered on both of those cases, 24 months of probation, and then costs.
But no matter what, it sounds like between her offer and the state's offer, she wouldn't be doing any prison time.
Correct.
So I mean, she's kind of putting herself out there at this trial to keep her name clean, right?
100%, yeah. She's facing up to 30 years by going to trial. She's also being held on no bond right now, and if she were to take their deal today, she'd be home.
So now the trial has been set for, is it December 8th?
Yes.
Okay, so you said you didn't want to waive speedy trial at this point. Why is that?
It's just, she shouldn't have to waive speedy trial. She wants to make sure that she doesn't remain in jail any longer than necessary. And the only reason that we aren't ready for Monday is because the state just dropped all this new discovery on us right now.
What would the sentence have been if it would have been a money laundering charge, do you know?
If under the plea, it was just going to be probation.
Okay. And how long?
24 months.
24 months, okay.
Just to go back to that point, though, why is it so important for her that she does not become a convicted felon?
She's lived her whole life as a law-abiding citizen. She's been brought into this case after all of the other co-defendants and for reasons that we can't explain. And they, in my opinion, simply don't have a strong case against her, and there's no reason she should live out the rest of her life as a convicted felon.
Now, with all that being considered, what is her mental state like? I mean, how is she handling all this? Because it seems insurmountable almost.
It's tough. So, of course, she's currently being held on no bond. She is now going to miss Thanksgiving with her family and her child, and it's been really tough on her.
So she's facing a pretty big risk here, but she thinks it's worth it.
Yes, of course.
All right. Anything else you want to share with us?
Marley, that is a big risk. Risking 20 plus years in prison when she could have 2 years of probation and no prison time. Essentially, that's a big roll of the dice.
Yeah, she could have walked out theoretically today. If she would have accepted the plea deal, she could have walked out of prison today and she could have been back with her family. But as you heard, her attorney feels that, they were brought into this case and they don't feel that the state has enough evidence to prove what they're alleging her involvement to be. And so I think in her mind, what I'm understanding is she would rather be going through this trial and kind of put herself under the fire a little bit to clear her name because she doesn't want to go through the adjudications. And it's a formal process revolving like a dispute, whether that's a neutral third party or the judge hearing both sides and making a decision. And so she didn't want to have to go through that process and then also accepting the 2 felony charges. Granted, they would be lower felonies, but it would make it hard to get a job, to live normal life. It would make things difficult. And so, yeah, she's definitely taking a huge roll of the dice, if you will, with this case. And she's taking that chance. But I think that shows the viewers, and I think it shows her family that she really does believe that she, doesn't have any involvement in this case. And so we'll see what happens as court continues. Like she mentioned, December 8th is the new trial set for the judge. And so we'll be back in a month hearing how everything goes. And we'll see what actually comes out of that discovery.
All right, going to be interesting to see. And we know we still have other proceedings to watch for the other co-defendants, including her estranged husband, who does not have a trial date yet set. So a lot of things to watch still with this case.
Yeah, a lot of things to watch. That was something that the state mentioned today. There was kind of a bit of back and forth, if you will, between the judge and the state and the defense on when they wanted to push this trial for Severance Lopez. And the state originally wanted it to be lined up with Lopez. He'll be in court on December 2nd. I think it's just a typical hearing. There's no trial date set, like you mentioned. And so they wanted it to be lined up, but then the judge was like, well, he doesn't even have a trial date, so we don't even need to mess with that. So we'll see what happens, too, with the suspended sheriff with his case. That'll be a whole nother side of this story, and I'm sure there's a lot to kind of come out of that as well.
Well, Fox 35's Marley Capper, we appreciate you joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus and filling us in with what happened in the courtroom today.
Thank you, Garrett.
We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Let me give you a live look right now at the U.S. Capitol on in Washington, D.C. It is day 37 of the government shutdown, the longest government shutdown in history. Also want to let you know we are standing by for a event at the White House. Give me 1 second here to pull up the live shot of the White House. You can see flags remain at half staff after following the passing of former Vice President Dick Cheney. President Trump set to make an announcement sometime in this 11 o'clock hour is when it's expected from the Oval Office, and there are reports that it could be about lowering the cost of obesity drugs like Ozempic and other GLP-1s. So we will have to wait and see, but we are seeing those reports. That announcement was expected sometime this week, and so with the announcement that the president is going to be speaking from the Oval Office shortly, we have seen some of those reports. So we will bring that announcement to you live when it does begin. Again, that was scheduled for around 11 o'clock, so that could begin shortly. But again, just to talk about the impacts of the government shutdown, it is day 37, and the FAA and the U.S. Department of Transportation announcing plans yesterday to slash flights at 40 major U.S. airports. Getting a first look at that list, the preliminary list of airports with a number of major markets. Orlando International Airport among those expected to be on that list, but we are awaiting official confirmation still from the FAA. This could impact a number of flights with delays, cancellations that it could make those worse. We've already seen that. We've already seen delays. We've already seen cancellations because of FAA staffing. Now, if this step goes into effect, we don't know the number of flights, but would result in some cancellations as expected. And Fox 35's Amanda Ruiz was live out at MCO earlier today with more on what those impacts might look like.
Still awaiting that list from the FAA that will reveal which 40 airports are impacted by this whole thing. And as we know right now, MCO says they have not been notified that they're on this list. But again, that could all change once it is revealed who is on this list. Now take a look at your screen at the statement we got from MCO. It says in part, since the federal government shut down, MCO's operation has been minimally impacted with a few exceptions thanks to the federal airport partners who continue to come to work. Now Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says the FAA is cutting flights at the airport seeing the most pressure, adding when there is a shortage in controllers, the number of planes in the airspace has to be reduced. This is being done as a precautionary safety measure while the government shutdown continues. Now, the Transportation Secretary also says this has nothing to do with specific airlines or locations.
This is data-based. This is not based on what airline travels, has more flights out of what location. This is about where is the pressure and how do we alleviate the pressure.
As we continue to see staffing triggers, there will be additional measures that will be taken in those specific markets.
Now, Fox 35 reached out to all major airlines. All told us they are awaiting additional information from the FAA as to what flights will be impacted. The airlines also say they will keep their customers notified of any schedule changes. It is important to note, though, the reductions are happening at 40 airports, but there could be a trickle-down effect that could impact people nationwide. Now, again, once we get that list, we will let you know. But again, even if it's not MCO is not on the list, it could still have an impact on this airport.
Let me give you a live look right now on the floor of the U.S. Senate. This is Senator Rick Scott, a Republican from Florida, who is speaking right now as there is a debate on the Senate floor about the government shutdown. Just wrapped up his remarks there. We will get those for you in just a couple of minutes. This is Congressman Ed Markey, a Democrat from Massachusetts, who is speaking live right now. So part of this ongoing debate on day 37 of the government shutdown. Let me give you a live look at Daytona Beach from our Hard Rock Hotel camera. We know that Volusia County is seeing some king tides. Saw some impacts from that this morning because of the November supermoon. I don't know if you looked out last night and saw that supermoon. It was huge because of its just how close it was to Earth last night. And folks in Volusia County there are concerned that these high tides could lead to erosion in spots along the beach. Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Jessica Dobson was out at the beach earlier today to talk more about those impacts.
Actually already reached high tide at about 8 a.m. But here's the thing. We have another pretty high tide that is going to be fairly close to how high this one was tomorrow. So it will still impact your beach plans, especially it's kind of ebbs and flows as you move up and down the East Coast, right? So some spots are going to be worse than others, especially spots that normally have, say, sand dunes. The spot that we're in, it does have the beach wall. This is at Sunsplash Park. The Main Street Pier is about 3/4 of a mile to the north of me. But we have seen the water recede a little bit. There is still enough room to head out to the beaches today, but keep in mind a couple of things. Probably not a bad idea, for one, to make sure and look out for any sort of beach erosion, like the cliff style of beach erosion. Otherwise, also we have a high risk of rip currents today. And I'll also mention this too. Today at around 2 o'clock to 2:30 is when we have low tide. That is when you're going to have the most beach real estate to work with when it comes to heading out to the beaches. And if you're maybe worried about your things getting washed away, put them up far on the shore, not close to the water, but as far away from the water as you can if you're worried about maybe your items getting washed away, because sometimes you go on a beach walk, you come back and you're like, oh my gosh, where's my stuff? And it's because the water comes up, and that can cause some problems. So that's just a couple of things to keep in mind. But as always with the beach erosion, I know say in Ormond Beach, we've had some that has been pretty bad. Even just about a month and a half ago, early October, we dealt with some of the worst we've seen in a while. And it was partially because we had some strong onshore winds. We had a tropical system that was offshore, a strong one at that. And we don't have really either of those things today, so that's really helping us out quite a bit. The swell is not very large either. It looks to be about maybe 1 to 3 feet at most. So all of these things I feel like are really helping us out in terms of conditions out here. So really not bad at all. We did have some surfers out here. We've had several beachgoers and runners too. So it's honestly been a fairly pleasant morning, but closer to the pier where we have our Hard Rock Hotel camera, that is where I have noticed a little bit worse in the way of some beach inundation with the water. However, again, low tide's going to be coming in around 2 o'clock, which is honestly perfect time to head out to the beach, if not this morning. So there still is a little bit of room to work with. Again, this is at Sunsplash Park, so things have been faring pretty well.
And as we go to break here on Fox 35 News Plus, leave you with this live look from our Hard Rock Hotel camera there at the Daytona Beach. We'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I want to give you this live look at the Senate floor. Again, this is Senator Ed Markey, a Democrat from Massachusetts, who is debating right now on the floor of the Senate with Senator Rick Scott, Republican from Florida, amid the government shutdown. So let's go ahead and listen in live here to this debate while we wait on President Trump from the Oval Office.
Free speech resolution. That is ridiculous. We should have the vote on free speech. And because of that, Mr. President, I object.
Objection is heard.
Mr. President.
Senator from Florida.
I want to commend my colleague for deferring his paycheck. I think it's the right thing to do. If he's willing to defer his paycheck, why wouldn't he allow my bill to pass that all of us should defer our paychecks until government gets open again? The right thing to do is open the government and figure out how do we improve our healthcare system. Our healthcare system is out of control. The costs are out of control. Obamacare has completely failed us. Remember when Obamacare was passed, President Biden said, oh, you won't lose your doctor. Biggest lie of the year. Oh, gosh, you're not going to lose your plan. You completely lost your plan. Oh, you're going to save $2,500 a family. No, your costs have skyrocketed. Your co-payments are up. Your deductibles are up. Your premiums have skyrocketed. And so what we've got to do is we need to sit down in a bipartisan manner and say, how do we actually fix the cost of health care? You don't do it by shutting down government and making sure our military doesn't get paid, our TSA doesn't get paid, our FAA doesn't get paid, our Capitol Police doesn't get paid, all of our federal workers don't get paid, and we prevent 42 million people from getting food stamps benefits. If we want to fix health care, which we should do on a bipartisan matter, we should sit down and do that once we open the federal government. So I'm disappointed that my colleague, I commend him for deferring his paycheck. It's the right thing to do, but we should do that for every member of Congress until we open our government. Thank you, Mr. President.
So that debate has wrapped up for now. We will try to pull more of those remarks for you and have that for you coming up in just a little bit. We are going to take another quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday morning live on Fox Local and on YouTube. A Tampa native and former Florida Marlin is back on the Hall of Fame ballot for the National Baseball Hall of Fame. We're talking about Gary Sheffield, and he's going to have a chance to get in the Hall after he was added to the Contemporary Baseball Era Committee ballot. So joining us live now to talk about this is Mark Topkin, Tampa Bay Rays beat writer for the Tampa Bay Times. And Mark, before we jump into that, and talk about Gary Sheffield. Want to get your thoughts because I know you've been following some breaking news this morning with the Rays when it comes to the roster makeup of the team. What do you got?
Yeah, today's kind of decision Thursday. Any players around the majors who had options that haven't been resolved have to be decided by 5 o'clock today. It also then leads to the start of free agency essentially tonight, although baseball is not like the NBA or NFL where it just goes crazy those first few days. It tends to drag on for months. So the option decisions are kind of the big news, and the Rays have already made their biggest one, which is second baseman Brandon Lau. They will bring him back at an $11.5 million salary for next year. If they would have declined the option, he gets a buyout and would become a free agent. So you don't want to let him go for nothing. He's one of their key guys, obviously. And they also decided to pick up an option on Taylor Walls, their shortstop, or sometimes middle infielder reserve. And that was kind of more of a money situation because he was under team control anyway. They'll pay him $2.45 million for next year, and then they got a 2027 option. Still to be decided later today is closer Pete Fairbanks, whether they pay him an $11 million salary, which would be a pretty good raise because he made $3.67 million each of the last 3 years, earned that with his performance and some incentives, or the same thing. He would get a buyout of $1 million and become a free agent. They also could pick up the option and still have, the scenario where they trade him at some point as well. So there's still a lot to be talked about with Pete.
Mark, is today kind of our first indication of what this new ownership group is going to be like when it comes to some of these roster moves?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no, because I think the Brandon Lau decision was pretty obvious. That would have been pretty surprising had they not picked him up. And I guess in that way, Garrett, it could, because you could have, I guess, say if they had declined it, you would have gotten a sense from the new ownership that they were trying to, limit the payroll in some fashion or save money for something else. But I think this was pretty straightforward, both of these two. And I could kind of see the Fairbanks one going either way. So I don't know if we have a full read yet, but it certainly will, go down historically as the first kind of major decisions made under the new ownership group.
Now let's talk about Gary Sheffield here. We know he's a Tampa native, a former Marlin from the days that they were the Florida Marlins. It took me a second. I had to make sure I didn't mess that up in the intro earlier. What do you make of him being added to this contemporary baseball era committee ballot?
Yeah, it's interesting because Gary each player gets 10 years on the writers ballot, the Baseball Writers Association ballot. He didn't make it on that. That just ended last year, so he got an opportunity. These era ballots, there's a different one. It's a 3-year cycle, so it was kind of a cool thing for him that he got added to this year's instead of having to wait 3 years. It's tough to get on the ballot. There's a committee of historians and journalists and baseball people who sift through, hundreds of names essentially and narrow it down to the 8 that are going to be on the ballot. So just to get this far is an accomplishment, but obviously not the ultimate goal. And it'll be interesting because credential-wise, 509 home runs, that jumps out at you for Gary Sheffield. That used to be the magic number for making the Hall of Fame. The standards seem to have shifted a little bit in a couple different directions, but it's an interesting ballot because Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens are on it. They obviously got very little traction with the writers. They were on this ballot 3 years ago as well, didn't get much support. So be curious to see what happens with them. And then as far as where Sheffield's chances rank, I think Dale Murphy's going to get a lot of consideration. The longtime Braves star, Don Mattingly, who his career was kind of shortened because of injuries. And when he played, he was really good, obviously. And, kind of known as Donnie Baseball, one of those guys who just everybody seemed to like. So it's an interesting mix. There's a couple others on there as well. Jeff Kent, Fernando Valenzuela are among them as well. Carlos Delgado. I think probably, in my opinion, Sheffield, Kent, and then Dale Murphy and Mattingly. I would think those would be the top 4 vote getters. But it's a closed door committee that will meet. Also a mix of current Hall of Famers, baseball executives, a few historian or longtime media people on there. It's a group of 16. You need 12 votes to get in. And there's kind of sworn to secrecy of not saying how the debate went. You just get the vote totals for the top guys announced. And that'll all happen right in your backyard at the winter meetings in Orlando on December 7th.
And you were talking about how the process is a little bit different, and all of this coming obviously after Sheffield spent 10 years on the ballot and was not chosen by the writers. How do you think the committees maybe look at this a little differently than the writers do, or you know, what do you think the perspective is like for the committee as opposed to the writers?
Well, I think maybe the best example I could give you was Fred McGriff went 10 years, another Tampa guy, and a guy who hit a lot of home runs and was really known for having a very, sterling reputation as far as doing everything right over the years, a lot of consistency. He didn't make it and didn't get particularly close on the writer's ballot in his 10 years. And then his first year on the ERA committee ballot, he was a unanimous selection. So it is a different perspective, and it's an interesting because it's different groups on there. Like I said, there's usually 4 or 5 guys who are in the Hall of Fame. There's usually some team, high-ranking team officials or even an owner. Artie Moreno of the Angels was on the committee last time, and then a couple of more of the historian/journalist type. So it's an eclectic group, but yet they do look at things a little differently in this fashion. And sometimes you could say they can correct what they feel like the writers got wrong. And the guys that are in the Hall of Fame, they also have a different perspective and I think a different standard that they hold players to.
Going to be interesting to see. And you talked about some of the numbers. Do you think he fits in the Hall of Fame?
I do. I mean, I think you can make a pretty good case with 509 home runs. He was a top 10 finisher for the MVP award. He didn't win one, but I think he had a second and a third. I think he was 6 times in the top 10. He played 22 seasons. I know there's still some question and some debate over if he was or wasn't involved with performance-enhancing drugs. He admitted to he was involved with the Barry Bonds Balco situation way back when, but Gary admitted to using something called the creams that he had no idea what it was told it was more from a trainer for a rehab thing, used it very briefly, and was very straightforward about it. And, I think he felt like he cleared that up in his mind and didn't do anything wrong. And then, there's just people, he was not a great defensive player. So there's certainly reasons you can find to suggest he wouldn't get in. But I think if you look at the totality of his career and the 509 home runs, I talked to him about it the other day and just paraphrasing it, he basically said, I know what I did. I know how I did it. I know where I belong. And I can't do anything else about it now. Whatever people decide, they decide.
Yeah, that's I guess the only way you can look at it as a former player. No longer in your control, and just kind of is what it is at this point.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And Gary was known also for being incredibly honest during his career and would say pretty much what was on his mind and didn't really care what was politically correct or what you're supposed to say or what doesn't go over well. And that was the same guy now at 56 years old, just talking to him the other night.
Well, he had one of those signature kind of stances with the bat waggle that you just don't forget.
Yeah, I think if you talk to, that's one thing too, I would say you talk to pitchers who played in that era and you ask pitchers, even if you don't lead them to it, just who was the most feared hitter you faced. And a lot of them will tell you it was Gary Sheffield because of that bat waggle and how hard and the kind of ferocity with which he hit the ball.
All right, good stuff. Mark Topkin, Tampa Bay Rays beat writer at the Tampa Bay Times. We appreciate you joining us and talking some off-season baseball with us here.
Sounds good. Anytime, Garrett.
All right, we're going to take a break and we'll be right back. All right, we are...
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday morning. Governor Ron DeSantis was in South Bay earlier today in Palm Beach County. He was at the site of the Everglades agricultural area reservoir project. This is a large reservoir and stormwater treatment area project that is designed to prevent harmful discharges from going into the Everglades, and essentially will also improve water flow and quality in that area. So Governor DeSantis was there alongside the Environmental Protection Secretary, Alexis Lambert. They spoke to reporters just a little bit ago and made an announcement about that project.
Places like the Everglades are one reason why people like to be tourists in Florida and visit. There's a lot of great stuff to see for those who are of that type of bent. So when we came in 2019, we launched a very ambitious effort to get all this done and to move forward with really strong speed. After, quite frankly, a lot of this had been languishing and there was a lot of frustration that progress wasn't being made. We have gotten over $8 billion just in state money and state investments since 2019 for both water quality and Everglades restoration. In July, we announced that we've tripled the water storage capacity in South Florida since I've been governor, including we opened the important C-43 reservoir, which will help mediate discharges into the Caloosahatchee. Also did the C-44 reservoir, our part of that. Before we did C-43, and I know there was issues with the Army Corps, but we did our part on that. And so both of those reservoirs are really, really significant for managing the water flow. Massive reduction in nutrients in South Florida waterways, almost 750,000 pounds per year of nitrogen and about 500,000 pounds per year of phosphorus. Annual nutrient removal efforts because of those projects adding to what we were already doing. 1.8 million pounds of nitrogen and almost 800,000 pounds of phosphorus are removed each and every year. This is a major deal. We've also been able to move more water south to the Florida Everglades. That's important for the aquifer. It also has led to Florida Bay achieving its salinity goals for the first time in decades. And although we're proud of that, we've always said, there's a lot more work to do. Many of the projects that go into Everglades restoration are this 50-50 shared component between the state and the federal government. And what we saw, we had a good momentum going under the Trump 45 administration. To be honest, this isn't a partisan thing. It just languished under Biden. The project completions were pushed out, and they basically said the southern reservoir was going to take till 2034, which was not acceptable for us. So Florida has gone ahead of schedule. We've worked faster than any other state has been able to do, but we recognize that we had an opportunity to do more. The Army Corps, I think they're actually doing a great job with this partnership, but it's built a little bit differently. The bureaucracy is a little bit more cumbersome than what we do in Florida. And so it's just, we have the ability to pounce on these things and to bring projects to fruition very, very quickly. So we reached this summer, I think as many of you know, a historic agreement to expedite and advance Everglades restoration with the Trump 47 administration. Under this new agreement, Florida is now empowered to complete work on behalf of the Army and federal government. So they give us the funds and then we execute on the projects, and we're able to do these projects quicker and get this done faster. So because of this agreement and what Florida has done, the Army Corps has now been able to accelerate their commitment and investment into Everglades restoration so that by 2029, we're going to have these key projects done. It had been 2034 under Biden. So that's really, really significant. That's a 5-year acceleration for the construction of the southern reservoir, the EAA reservoir. So we really appreciate the collaboration and the partnership we have with our federal partners, and really thank the Army Corps for really, I mean, it's been great to see. They've worked really well with us, and we're making really big progress. So the main part of the EAA is a federal project. We did our part of the EAA. I mean, we got that done very quickly. There are other components of the EAA which were also under federal, and so what we said was, let us do some of that, give us the money and we'll do it. So we've been granted the authority to construct the inflow and outflow pump stations and other auxiliary features of the EAA reservoir. So the Army Corps focuses on the main reservoir basin. We do the other kind of supplementary and complementary components of that. We're also able to provide support to the main EAA reservoir project, and we're able to even step in if the vendors are falling behind. So the Army Corps has pledged to expedite permits, remove red tape, so that we're able to get the job done. Now the good news is as important as the Everglades agricultural area reservoir is, we also have other projects. The work to convey the water under the Tamiami Trail through Everglades National Park and into Florida Bay is also a very important component of this, and we've been able to do an awful lot with that, and we're doing more. We've already seen expedited return on the investment on this new agreement. We've got projects underway that would not have started at this point absent this agreement. We were here a couple months ago, well, not exactly here, but we were in South Florida a couple months ago with the Blue Shanty Flowway, which when completed will carry new clean water south. The agreement with the Corps has allowed us to assume responsibility for the construction of this project. It's a critical part of the Central Everglades Planning Project and will play an important role in maximizing the value of the EAA reservoir. We were able to break ground on that important milestone for Everglades restoration less than 8 weeks after we got the agreement signed between the Army Corps of Engineers and the state of Florida. That's a huge thing. I mean, that's like nitro speed. And they had to do bids and stuff, and they had to do all this. So the Blue Shanty Flowway is a constructed wetland flowway that will deliver high volumes of water underneath the newly constructed bridges on Tamiami Trail, and the last major component to, quote, uncork the Everglades. And all of these things have been executed during our administration. Now, as it stands today, water flow to the bridges is partially blocked by levees constructed a century ago to protect vulnerable communities in South Florida from catastrophic flooding. But technology and updated information have allowed us to find better ways to keep people safe that do not harm the water flow into the basin. So when completed, Blue Shanty will be the first of several structures that will reconnect block flowways through Everglades National Park and in to Florida Bay. It's important to direct the water in this manner because it represents the historic flowway through Shark River Slough. This is the first step of a significant project that will ensure this project is ready to go as the EAA reservoir comes online, and will end up costing half of the original federal estimate. So today, we're here to celebrate yet another milestone in Everglades restoration made possible by our agreement with the federal government. Part of our agreement allowed Florida to take control of construction of inflow and outflow pump stations for the EAA, located just south of Lake Okeechobee. The EAA is a 10,000-acre reservoir. It will store excess water from Lake Okeechobee, over 78 billion gallons, enough water to fill almost 120,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. This water will then be sent to an adjacent 6,500-acre stormwater treatment area, which is what we did, where it will be cleaned and then delivered south to nourish the Everglades. This will provide an additional 370,000 acre-feet of clean water to the ecosystem each and every year. That's enough to lower Lake Okeechobee by 6 inches and significantly reduce harmful discharges to our coastal estuaries. Now the lake depends on the rain, depends on the season. We have not been hit by any tropical major hurricanes this year. I mean, we're in November. We're still not out of the woods. The likelihood goes down as we get deeper into November. So, knock on wood, we get a couple more weeks to not have. It's got to be great for the state for sure. But obviously, when those systems come, that affects the levels in Lake Okeechobee. Now, the reservoir. It'll be larger than Manhattan, and it'll probably be safer than Manhattan's going to be too. And when operational, will deliver between 270 to 470 billion gallons of clean, fresh water to the Everglades and Florida Bay every year. We'll also supply fresh water for the Biscayne Aquifer, which is a source of drinking water for many people in South Florida. So this is something that will be really significant. Now, we had major delays, as I mentioned, under the Biden administration. Again, it's not a partisan attack. It's just the truth. This stuff was really languishing. We have delivered with South Florida Water Management District, with Florida DEP. We have completed projects sometimes 6 or 7 years ahead of schedule and under budget. Now today, this groundbreaking on the new EAA inflow pump station, this is an essential component of the EAA reservoir project. This will have 9 pumps and will be one of the largest pump stations in the entire state of Florida. It will have the capability to move approximately 3 billion gallons of water per day from Lake Okeechobee into the EAA reservoir. It's slated to be completed 5 years ahead of our previously anticipated opening. And so today's groundbreaking marks the 80th milestone event in Everglades restoration that has taken place since 2019. Really what we needed was leadership and vision, and then we needed to provide support for the people that were on the ground getting it done, and it's worked out very, very well. So we're going to continue to do this. Now, we'll be putting out our budget for the next fiscal year, probably sometime.
Let me get you now to the Oval Office live here, where President Trump is getting ready to speak. Let's go ahead and listen in.
Well, this is very exciting because, again, we're bringing drug prices down to levels that will be as possible. Tremendous cuts, 200%, 300%, 500%, 700%, a little bit more than that. So today I'm thrilled to announce that the 2 world's largest pharmaceutical manufacturers, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, have agreed to offer their most popular GLP-1 weight loss drug. I call it the fat drug, remember? At drastic discounts. They're very effective drugs. So far, I've never heard anything bad about them. I only hear good about them. It's pretty. Is there anything bad about them, Bob? Yeah, I haven't heard anything bad. Someday, maybe it'll come out, which will notify you immediately. But so far, I haven't heard that, including the drugs known as Zepbound and Wegovy, often called Ozempic. This is a triumph for American patients that will save lives and improve the health of millions and millions of Americans. Amazing thing. They are amazing. I want to thank Eli Lilly CEO David Ricks, a friend of mine. We've worked long and hard. He and I got this whole thing started in a way. And Novo Nordisk CEO Mike Dustar for joining us today. Great, talented people. They make a lot of money. I looked at the money, but they're entitled to the money because the companies are doing very well. Along with Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Secretary Howard Lutnick. Do you take any of this stuff, Howard?
Not yet.
Okay, good. CMS Administrator Mehmet Oz, he doesn't take it. Food and Drug Administrator Commissioner Marty McCary and Director of Medicare Chris Klump. And we have Steve he here? Head of Public Relations for the White House. He's taking it. The United States is just 4% of the world's population and consumes only 13% of all prescription drugs, yet pharmaceutical companies make 75% of their profits from the American customer. I would say that's not so good, right? It's not exactly great. To address this chronic unfairness, I signed an executive order earlier this year instructing my administration to do everything in our power to implement most favored nations drug pricing, something that has been helped greatly by tariffs, because when nations refuse to do it, we should have put this in the case yesterday. I just say, well, if you're not going to do it, we're going to charge you a like amount of tariffs. And they immediately say, we'll do it, which means that Americans should pay no more than the lowest price offered anywhere in the world. So that you've heard for years the disparity where you'll pay $150 for a pill in New York and you'll pay $10 for a pill in London. Now you're going to pay $20 both, because the world is a little bit bigger than the U.S., so it goes up that way, but you'll pay $20 and $20. A tremendous advantage to our country after years of being abused by the world system. Already Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and EMD, Serrano, have agreed to drastically lower their prices for American patients, and today Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk are joining the phenomenal list of the most exciting announcements. I mean, nobody's ever had announcements like, and this has to do with other pharmaceutical products also. But we're covering this today because it's such a big seller. I guess it's the number one selling thing there is today. These are two companies that behind the groundbreaking weight loss drugs that have helped millions of Americans struggling with obesity live better, longer lives, everything else. These are the two companies that really broke ground. Until now, neither of these two popular drugs have been covered by Medicare for weight loss, and they've only rarely been covered by Medicaid. They've often cost consumers more than $1,000 per month, and some a lot more than that. Americans have been spending as much as 520% more for Zepbound and 1,400% more for Wegovy than patients in Europe. Think of that. 1,400% more than a patient in Europe for the exact same box. And that ends starting today. The other countries are not happy with us. I don't think they like me too much, Bobby, but that's okay. Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk are committing to offer Zepbound and Wegovy at most favored nations rates for American patients. This will slash the cost of Wegovy from $1,350 a month to ultimately $250 a month. $1,350 to $250. Did I do a good job? They're going to write about it. You know, they like to not write these things. And reduce, you think Biden could have done this? I don't think so. And reduce the monthly cost of Zepbound from $1,080 to $346. In addition, they're both committing that future GLP-1 weight loss drugs taken orally, which are currently under development, will be sold at no more than $149 per month. It's a massive, think of that. You go from $1,300 to $149 a month. We anticipate these new versions will be coming out in a very short period of time. All of these drugs will be available directly to the consumer at TrumpRx.gov. Trump, they want to use my name. Trump, it better be good. TrumpRx.gov. And I think it's turning out to be pretty amazing, right, us? Just as significantly, Medicare and Medicaid will finally cover the cost of these weight loss drugs for millions of patients suffering from obesity. Co-pays for Medicare patients will be as low as $50. This is tremendous savings. I mean, now you're talking about from $1,350 to $50. This is tremendous news for the American seniors. And you all remember what I had 1/8 of 1% for the year. I got it 1/8, and I was so thrilled. But now we're cutting it 1,000%, 1,200%. Nobody's ever seen anything like this. Nobody else could have done it, but I say that modestly. In addition, you think it was easy dealing with these people? It wasn't. You think it was easy saying your drug, Mr. Eli Lilly, that we're selling for $1,300 is going to be sold for $250? You know the amazing thing, the stocks all went up. I mean, these guys they're fantastic. Because it's going to equalize the world. The world's a bigger place, and it's going to equalize. I was a little surprised to see that, but I'm happy about it. In addition, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk have agreed to provide all of their other medications to Medicaid at most favored nations prices. Most favored nations, meaning that you will pay the lowest price anywhere in the world. That's what you're going to pay. Whereas before they paid low prices and we paid, thousands of percentile ahead more. And to sell these drugs to all consumers at deeply discounted prices via TrumpRx.com. When is TrumpRx.com opening?
The site is open. It will launch in terms of giving people prices before the end of the year.
Okay. Got to make sure it's successful. It's got my name on it. I don't want to be like so many others. I don't want to be like the train they're building in California, okay, which has about a 15,000% cost overrun. Or the beautiful Obama building that he's building in Chicago for the museum, which is now shuttered up and dead. They got it up, and they couldn't finish. It's about, would you say, 5 years behind schedule? And about 2,000% over budget. Then he tells us how to run Medicaid. Many of the most widely used drugs will be available for 60% off, or even more than that. In addition, all new medications introduced by Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk to the American market will be sold at the heavily reduced most favored nations price. Most favored nations price, that's the best. Because they have been thousands of percent lower than what we were selling in many cases. Furthermore, Eli Lilly is investing $27 billion. That's all? And Novo Nordisk will invest $10 billion. That's all? That's peanuts. In the United States to reshore and do a big domestic manufacturing job in the facilities they're going to spend. So Eli Lilly spent $27 billion. Novo is spending $10 billion in the United States. So they're building new plant and equipment. That's part of what will be $20 or $21 trillion this year. There's never been anything like it. I know nobody talks about it, but there's never been anything like, I would say, you would say, that there's never been anything like this ever, whether it's China or Europe, or you could take all of Europe, there's never been anything like this. So we're already past 17 trillion. We're going to be, I think by the time the year closes out, we'll have investments of over $21 trillion based on the way we're going. And by the way, tariffs are very important. Without tariffs, perhaps it could be a little bit different, to put it mildly. Tariffs are so important. The decision in the Supreme Court would be devastating to our country if we got a negative, devastating if we got a negative decision. But this is a great day for American health and health care, and for all of American patients. These are things that are miracles to have this happen. And we're bringing all our medicines, again, because of tariffs, we're bringing all our medicines. If you remember where during COVID, we made almost no medicine here. We had to go to China, we had to go to Ireland, we had to go to other places, UK, to get our medicine. We didn't make it here. Now we're making it, we'll soon be making it all here, again, because of tariffs. And my election, but because of tariffs, much more. For years, politicians have talked about making health care affordable, but my administration is actually doing it. Americans deserve the best health care in the world, and we're now getting the best health care at the lowest price. So I'd like to ask somebody who's doing a fantastic job, Secretary Kennedy, to say a few words, followed by Dr. Raj, Dr. Klomp, and then Eli Lilly, CEO David Ricks, and Novo Nordisk CEO Mike Dustar. These are incredible stars in that business. Like Dustar is a big star. And I can tell you that David Ricks is one of the hottest people in the world in business, but the business that he's in is pharmaceutical. And the job he's done with Eli Lilly is incredible. Both of these gentlemen, they really are stars in the truest sense. And it's an honor to have you in the White House. And go to it, Bobby.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to start by thanking you, Mr. President, for declaring war on chronic disease in this country. This is something no American president has ever done. If we want to solve the chronic disease crisis, we have to tackle obesity. Obesity is the #1 driver of chronic disease. 50% of our adult population are obese or overweight. And it drives about 50% of healthcare costs in this country. Diabetes, cardiac diseases, we are going to see a decline because of this historic agreement. We're going to see a decline in costs, but also, more importantly, in the afflictions themselves. President Trump is the friend of the forgotten American. Obesity is a disease of poverty, overwhelmingly. And these drugs have only been available for people who have wealth. At one point, the majority of prescriptions, the highest concentration of prescriptions in this country, was the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And what about the people who live in rural areas, who live in food deserts? What about the people in urban areas who live in food deserts and are suffering from obesity and are locked into that system where they can only get ultra-processed foods, which are aggravating the problem? This will be a lifesaver to them. It's not a panacea. It's not a silver bullet. President Trump has also instructed us to address and end the root causes of chronic disease, and we're doing that. We're about to release dietary guidelines that are going to change the food culture in this country. They're going to change the kind of food the military gets. They're going to change the kind of food that our children get. We're releasing those in December. The Presidential Council for Physical Fitness is going to get more Americans into, particularly our children, into physical activity so that we can attack the root causes of this. But in the meantime, there's nothing more important than we can do than lower this price. As I said, it is the #1 cost of all drugs. This is the biggest drug in our country. That's why this is the most important of all the MFN announcements we've made. This is going to have the biggest impact on the American people. All Americans, even those who are not on Medicaid and Medicare, are going to be able to get the same price for their drugs, for their GLP drugs. This happened because of the vision of David Ricks, of Mike Dusar, and the other people, and the people on our team who figured out a way to align the interests of the shareholders of their company with the health of the American public. And it is a momentous accomplishment. It took months and months of negotiations. And I had a wonderful conversation with Mike Dusar about his experience, and he thanked me for the caliber of people who are on our side of the negotiating team. Chris Klump, who walked away from $1 billion business in order to join this administration, Emma Hernandez, David Brooks, and of course, Dr. Oz and Marty McGarry, who made this happen. They saw that this could be a win-win situation, that this was not a zero-sum game. The Biden administration tried to solve this problem unsuccessfully, I might add, by throwing $40 billion at it. They were able to achieve an agreement that will actually create savings for the American public. So we're making all of this available at a savings, and that's because the price of diabetes prescriptions is also going to drop. And the savings that we get from that are now going to make it available to people who do not have diabetes. People who have a BMI of 27 and above, or pre-diabetic, or have heart disease risk, they will be able to get it, but everybody will be able to get this drug, and it's going to change. We will lose, the American public, because of this agreement, will lose 125 million pounds by this time next year. it is going to have dramatic effects on human health in this country. And I want to thank President Trump for his leadership. He said that I'd gotten a lot done as HHS Secretary, but almost none of that is due to my ability. It's because I'm surrounded by people who are smarter than me, who are more able than me, and those people came into the administration because they were inspired by President Trump. People like Chris Klump are here because they see this.
You think they are smarter than you and
Yeah.
more able? No.
Believe me, they're a lot smarter than I am.
Why don't you take that job? He doesn't really mean that he's being modest, I promise you. But
it is true, unfortunately.
It's a beautiful thing.
But I want to thank you, Mr. President, because you've made me a success here by allowing me to attract.
This announcement continuing as President Trump and the Secretary of Health and Human Services, RFK Jr., announcing a deal between the White House and these drug makers to offer popular weight loss drugs at a lower cost. We're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back. Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. This is U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. speaking right now in the Oval Office of the White House alongside President Trump. A number of drug manufacturing leaders. This is also Dr. Mehmet Oz, who is the administrator for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS. Speaking right now, they are talking about this deal that Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly, the drug manufacturers, made with the White House to lower the cost of popular weight loss drugs, that the GLP-1s that we hear a lot about. So that is what the topic is, the big announcement from the White House this morning, talking about those obesity drugs, Wegovy and Zepbound. And you heard RFK Jr. just a moment ago say that this will help many forgotten Americans because they say obesity is a disease of poverty. Let's go ahead and listen in to Dr. Oz as he speaks live right now inside the White House.
No place in America on the right.
Are part of that. They've been a part of it for a long time, but this president insisted that we address it. In fact, the first time I heard this directly from you, sir, was in January at Mar-a-Lago, where he took Secretary Kennedy, myself, Mr. Ricks, who you'll hear from in a second, to dinner and demanded explanations for most favored nation pricing and what's wrong with it. And there was not a good reason against it. Now, MAHA is critical. America will have to get fit in order to right-size the healthcare system, and MAHA has the answers. It has obesity management through diet and exercise and sleep and dealing with issues related to that. And I want to say it as clear as I can. Obesity is not an absence of GLP-1 drugs. We're all clear on that. But as Secretary Kennedy said, it is an arrow in our quiver that we must use and should use. The MAHA movement means making it easier for the right things to happen, easier for you to be healthy. If you're sitting at home and watching, that's what MAHA means to me. Reducing costs of the #1 most expensive medicine category in our country for Americans does just that. It is as MAHA as it gets. Today's the 4th MFN. President Trump highlighted the first 3. Leading U.S. company, leading European company. We've dropped in fertility drugs, so we'll make lots of Trump babies, I'm hoping, by the midterms. But it's really about fairness. Fundamentally, it's fairness in pricing to Americans who have been getting ripped off paying 3 times more than their European counterparts for the exact same product made in the same factory, in the same bottle, in the same packaging. We shouldn't be paying 3 times more, and we are no longer doing that. Fairness to the forgotten man also means dealing with the reality that they can afford a life-saving, life-changing drug that 10% or more of affluent Americans take, but folks without means can't manage it. Secretary Kennedy mentioned New York City. Actually, the #1 zip code is the Upper East Side, which is where you have property. And folks who know ritzy areas buy important real estate there because those real estate properties are worth a lot there. That should not be the #1 zip code in America for purchasing GLP-1 drugs. It speaks to the fact that we have an inherently, innately unfair system that penalizes folks who can use these medications the most, folks in the Rust Belt. Now, what are you supposed to do the right thing to do for your health is right there, but you can't afford to get it? Folks need to be able to utilize these life-saving medications, and being fair about its distribution is essential. And we are democratizing access to these medications and dealing with a moral imperative to make sure that all Americans have access to avoiding all the obesity-related complications by making sure they can afford, if they do things right, not just MAHA-appropriate interventions, but also medications like this. In fact, we think these deals, and this part's very important, we believe these deals within 2 years, by the time the ink dries on these contracts that were signed earlier today, within 2 years, based on our health improvements, we will be budget neutral. These drugs will not cost us money. The American taxpayers will be getting their money back. That's how important it is for us to reduce the cost of health care in this country, especially when it's due to preventable problems like obesity. In addition, we have an update, Secretary Kennedy. We thought it was 125 million pounds. Mr. President, our estimate, based on the company numbers as well, is Americans will lose 135 billion pounds by the midterms. But I don't measure it in pounds. I measure it in saved lives. People can sleep again because they can breathe as when they go to bed. Folks whose knees don't hurt. People who don't have heart attacks, renal failure, dementia, all the things we know are associated with obesity and much more. This wouldn't have happened if we didn't have the right tools and had the ability with a team that has been spoken of early. So I want to call out Abe Sutton. He's in the back right there. He leads the CMS Innovation Center. It made the deal possible. And they are announcing today a new model, a brand new model aimed at getting to the vulnerable populations amongst us these medications. The forgotten man will be able to afford these drugs now. Governors will be thanking President Trump. They should be calling directly, sir, because they're going to be able to afford Medicaid next year in ways unimaginable, and they will stop crowding out education and other civil services. We cannot be a wealthy nation without being a healthy nation. That's why today's MFN deal is a historic step forward for all America, and this is something that I don't think is partisan. There is no way you can argue against what just happened. These numbers to my side here, Administrator McCary, who's been instrumental in this process as well, $1,350 baseline. Chris Klump will go through the numbers, but just focus on that 245, which is what he's going to point you to. And Chris Klump has been an unbelievable leader, an innovator. You've heard his name before. He's spoken here before, but he is continuing to change the face of CMS, and I love the fact that with his leadership, we're bringing a lot of wonderful people in. Inma Hernandez has been mentioned, John Brooks as well, and many others, including Beth Kelly, who runs the legal issues around these issues, because these guys are barracudas, Mr. President. They will take you down, slice you in little bits. Howard's been there. It's no longer happening. You've got sharp folks. We're open for business. It's a generational opportunity to serve, and people are showing up. God bless you. Let me introduce now Chris Klump, who is just makes my life easier every day. I'm so proud of him.
We're going to take another break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. Take you back to the White House, where Chris Klomp, a senior advisor to HHS, is speaking right now as the White House announcing a deal with drug makers to lower the cost of popular GLP-1 weight loss drugs. So let's go ahead and listen in.
For a copay. This is a massive reduction from what happens today. For Medicaid, Novo and Lilly have agreed to extend the same new low government pricing to all 50 state Medicaid programs should they opt in. And we encourage them to opt in, and these will be available not just for diabetes and current covered indications, but also for obesity again. And in case you're getting tired of me saying it, at the same price of $245 a month, all covered doses. On Trump RX, the average price of injectables and orals will start at $350 on average. That's compared to roughly $500 today. And that will trend down to, you guessed it, the same $245 a month over the next 24 months. That is 1/5 of the list price. It is 1/2 of the best price in the United States today. We're hoping, Mr. President, that your friend who has to travel to England to afford these drugs will no longer need to do so and can come and do it in the United States. I'll also just mention that the $149 is $1 less than what you asked us to achieve. Just gonna make sure that's clear. So I want to highlight two other really important points that make me love this deal so very much. First, this isn't about spending more, it's about spending smarter. The savings from the diabetes drug price reductions are being used in a cost-neutral way to fund the new indications for taxpayers. That's amazing, and that happens inside of that same 24-month period. It's cost-neutral. We're spending the money more wisely. But second, this isn't just about lower drug prices for Americans, though it does do that, but together with physical activity, with healthy eating and diet, and where appropriate, the use of breakthrough GLP-1s, the real return on investment is healthier Americans, lower chronic disease, lower costs, we estimate by tens of billions of dollars a year, and most importantly, higher productivity. Today is about freeing Americans from the weight, literally and figuratively, that holds us back. It's about unlocking the potential of every citizen to live fully, to contribute fully, and to find joy in their health. We cannot reach our full potential as a nation if we do not reach our full potential as individuals. And we cannot reach our full potential as individuals if we are not healthy. Thanks to Novo and Lilly for showing up so constructively over the last several months to make this possible. In particular, thanks to you, Mr. President, for again demonstrating that you fight for every American, this time for potential. It's now my sincere pleasure to first introduce Dave Ricks from Lilly and then Mike Dusto from Novo.
Great, thank you, Chris. It's truly an honor to be here today for this historic step forward to expand access to a class of medications that can fundamentally change the arc of chronic disease in our country. Of course, these are the incretin or GLP-1 agonist that we've been speaking about. For nearly 150 years, my company, Eli Lilly, has been investing in America. We've been advancing science and creating high-value jobs. But today, oh, you okay? Gordon, you okay? Yeah.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Well, welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and we appreciate you joining us on this Thursday afternoon live on Fox Local and on YouTube. Apologies for the quick cutaway there in that White House press announcement there. We did see someone collapse, and we don't have any update on that, but certainly hope they are doing a little bit better now. So the big announcement, though, from the White House was that the manufacturers of a couple popular GLP-1s, those weight loss drugs, Wegovy and Zepbound, the manufacturers announcing a deal with the White House to offer lower costs on those very popular weight loss medications. We are also following a story now out of Orange County this afternoon, where we are hearing from union leaders and also county fire officials talking about the ongoing negotiations between the county and the firefighters for a new labor contract. We heard from the union speaking earlier today, where they say they are looking for significant raises and improvements to health care benefits. And we also heard from the Orange County Fire Chief after that. So I want to start by playing, this is Christopher Ritchie. He's the president of the Orange County Firefighters Association, IAFF Local 2057, speaking to reporters earlier today about what the firefighters union is looking for as these negotiations continue.
Firefighters can spend years waiting for a step that never comes, even as their skills grow and their responsibilities increase. That uncertainty drives people away. It turns what should be a lifelong profession into a temporary stop in Orange County along the way. Automatic movement isn't a luxury. It's the foundation of a fair and professional pay system. It tells our firefighters your dedication to this county matters. Your service is valued. The other major issue at impasse is healthcare. Firefighting is one of the most dangerous and physically demanding professions in America. Cancer, cardiac disease, PTSD, and occupational injuries are all part of the reality our members face. They deserve a healthcare system that is sustainable, transparent, and accountable, not one that changes unpredictably year after year. The current structure has left both our members and county leadership uncertain about long-term costs and coverage. Your firefighters are asking for a system that works for everyone, a model that provides stability, transparency, and protection for both the county and employees who dedicate their lives to public safety every day. Firefighters don't expect special treatment. They expect fair treatment. They want to know that when they or their families face a health crisis, they can count on the very system that they help fund and protect. Without fair progression and reliable health care, Orange County continues to lose experienced firefighters. Other agencies that offer clear career paths and stronger benefits are robbing us of the most talented individuals that we have. That turnover creates real risk. Each time a seasoned firefighter leaves, they take years of experience with them. Experience that can't be replaced overnight. They're replaced by new recruits who are eager and dedicated, but they're still learning. It's not just a workforce issue. This is a public safety issue. Experience saves lives, both in the community and on the fire ground. Every delay in addressing these issues increases that risk. We're calling for leadership and partnership from Orange County government. While Local 2057 respects the work that's been done so far, and we respect Mayor Jerry Demings' long record of public service, as he seeks higher office, our members hope he will reaffirm his commitment to public safety here at home by ensuring that these remaining issues are resolved quickly and fairly. This is not about politics, it's about priorities, and there is no greater priority than protecting the people of Orange County. Your firefighters are asking for partnership, for leadership, and a fair, complete agreement, and that honors the commitment they've shown this community for decades. In closing, to the members of Local 2057 standing here today, thank you. Thank you for your continued trust and support. You stood behind your firefighters, and they will always stand behind you. To the mayor, the commissioners, and the county administration, our members remain ready, as they have from the beginning, to work together in good faith to bring this long process to a fair and reasonable conclusion. Your firefighters love this county. They believe in it, and they are committed to protecting it today, tomorrow, and always. Thank you guys for attending.
That was the union leader there speaking to reporters. We also heard after that from the Orange County Fire Rescue Chief talking about these ongoing negotiations. There was a special magistrate hearing about this. Orange County saying they've been working for more than 2 years on this contract, and they say they are committed to making sure there is a fair and equitable contract. This is Fire Chief Anthony Rios, the Chief of Orange County Fire Rescue, speaking to reporters earlier today from their side of things.
As the Fire Chief for one of the largest fire departments in the nation, I acknowledge the efforts and the compromises involved in negotiations. I also recognize that we are stronger when we work together to meet the needs of our community and our fire department. I also recognize that there is simply more that unites us than separates us. Over 2 years ago, the county and the union began negotiations, focusing on establishing a timely contract. Since then, we have made significant progress. However, today, unfortunately, we find ourselves at an impasse. Let me be clear. We should not be here today when so many are enduring financial challenges. We should also not be here today at an impasse because of the wage adjustments that were offered to our firefighters, our dispatchers, and fire inspectors, which is simply unprecedented. This was only possible because of Mayor Demings' commitment and the Board of County Commissioners' unwavering support to public safety. At the start of negotiations, the county conducted a market analysis on comparative wages and benefits. The analysis enabled us to offer significant wage adjustments for the men and women of the Orange County Fire Rescue Department that is so well deserved. The wage offered included an increase of 35 to 41% in base wages, with employees seeing on average a 38% increase over the 3 years of the contract. This wage increase was deliberate and intentional to ensure that Orange County Fire Rescue is positioned to be amongst the top quartile fire departments in this state as it relates to starting wages and salary for tenured firefighters, ensuring that we remain competitive in this market. This reflects an undeniable commitment and value that this county places on its first responders. As fire chief, it is my responsibility, under the trust and confidence placed upon me by the mayor and county commissioners, to be a steward and guardian of responsible decision-making as I lead this fire department. We are grateful to the mayor and the county commissioners for their bravery in voting last year to increase the millage rate for the fire department. This decision allowed the fire department to invest in both the present and the future of our operations. The department's priorities are clear. Number one, invest in our workforce through competitive wages that address recruitment and retention. I think this is evident with the increase that we are proposing of 35 to 41% to base wages over the 3-year terms of this contract. That moves us in the right direction. Number 2, to invest in new fire stations to ensure that we are able to meet the needs and the demands of our growing community. Number 3, to provide safety equipment for our firefighters to protect them against the inherent threat of cancer in the fire service, as well as providing adequate accommodations for all of our employees. And number 4, the balanced decision also allows us to secure funding in replacing aging fire trucks, ensuring that we have reliable equipment to respond to our residents in their greatest time of need. As Fire Chief, I am confident that we can advance all of these priorities to meet the needs of our community and of our firefighters. I believe that we have delivered on the blueprint to set forth all of these priorities, as seen evident by the county's proposal to increase base wages of 35 to 41% for our firefighters, our dispatchers, and our fire inspectors. Thank you.
Chief Anthony Rios speaking to reporters earlier, as you heard him talk about the negotiations kind of being in a tough spot right now as this continues. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we will be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. Let me give you a live look at the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. right now, day 37 of the ongoing government shutdown. We heard a little bit ago from Republican leaders holding their daily news conference about the government shutdown. One of the Congress members that we heard from in that news conference today was Congressman Carlos Jimenez, who is a Republican from Florida. He serves the 28th Congressional District. And here is what he had to say about the government shutdown at this news conference earlier today.
Cuba. I was not born here in the United States. I didn't speak a word of English until I got here. I was 7 years old. And the reason I'm here is that my parents brought me here seeking freedom. Freedom from communism, freedom from a Marxist regime. And so I can tell you that I know a communist and a Marxist when I see one. They may call themselves socialists, they may call themselves a democratic socialist, but make no mistake, Mondami in New York, he's a Marxist. And the thing that bothers me is he's very proud to say, well, I'm young, I'm this, I'm that, I'm Muslim. I understand you can be proud of that. But then, if you're so proud, don't call yourself a democratic socialist. You are a Marxist. Go ahead. Tell people exactly who you are. He couldn't, and he can't because he knew he wouldn't get elected. But I hope that the people of New York do not suffer the same consequences that my homeland of Cuba has suffered. Castro and the Castro regime destroyed my homeland. They can't even keep the lights on. They don't have food, they don't have medicine, they can't keep the lights on. It's a total disaster of an island, a beautiful island that actually had the second highest standard of living in the Western Hemisphere when the regime took over. And so one of the reasons I'm in Congress, the primary reason I'm in Congress, is that I want to make sure that my children and grandchildren never suffer the same fate that my parents did, having to leave their country and bring us to a new country with about $10 in their pocket. Now, that's what makes this country great. My parents came here with $10 in their pocket and a watch. By the way, I still have that watch. All right. And here I am. Their son was a firefighter. He was a city manager. He was a county commissioner, county mayor of the largest county in the state of Florida, and now a member of Congress. I don't think there's too many countries that you can say that can happen. That's why I love this country. That's why I will fight for this country. And again, I know a Marxist when I see one. And it's unfortunate that the Democrat Party is heading that way, which means we just have to fight that much harder. Here to talk about the shutdown. And so, I'm Congressman Carlos Jimenez again. I represent the state of Florida, Miami, and the Keys. Today I'm standing in for my friend, RG2 Chairman David Valadeo of California, with one clear message, and I want to thank also the other members of RG2 that are here. The Republican Governance Group focus has always been about governing responsibly. RG2 is committed to putting results ahead of rhetoric, keeping the government functioning, and finding practical, common sense solutions that improve the lives of the American people. That's what we're here to do. And that means that we do what's right, even when it's hard. Yes, we're here on day 37 of the Democrat government shutdown, and with each passing day, more Americans are feeling the impact. The effects in my hometown or in my state. In my home state of Florida, 155,000 federal employees have not received their paychecks. Close to 2 million Floridians who rely on SNAP, including more than 1 million children, will not be getting their benefits. My colleagues on the other side insist we have chosen, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle have chosen politics over food security for millions of Americans. Small business loans are being delayed, totaling nearly $300 million in missed distributions, costing our state an estimated $1.7 billion in economic benefit alone. Starting Friday, 10% of the American airspace is going to be reduced because of the shutdowns ahead of the busy holiday season. More than 3,500 flights will either be delayed or canceled altogether. That's true effect of this shutdown. Let me be clear, holding the government hostage is not a responsible way to negotiate policy. On September 19th, the House of Representatives voted to extend government funding to keep the government open. And as the Speaker said, with a clean CR. There were no riders in it. There's no policy differences. It's actually a Biden budget, right? And so, what is the problem? No, there is no problem. It's politics. That's the problem. Meanwhile, Senate Democrats have voted 14, now you say 15 times, to keep the government closed. The funding bill before the Senate is the same short-term continuing resolution that we passed 15 times under President Biden with bipartisan support. And I supported each and every one of them to keep the government open. And I know that most, if not all, the members of RG2 also voted for the CRs to keep the government funded. We can and should debate serious issues like healthcare costs, but not at the expense of hardworking American families. I urge my Senate Democrat colleagues to pass the continuing resolution so that we can reopen the government and return to the table to negotiate real solutions. History shows that when Congress works together, we can find solutions without inflicting pain on the American people. I urge Senate Democrats again to reopen the government, end the suffering, and then join us in crafting meaningful bipartisan policy meant to improve the lives of everyday Americans. That's how we govern responsibly, and that's how we serve the American people.
That was Congressman Carlos Jimenez speaking earlier today on Capitol Hill, part of that news conference with Republican leadership on day 37 of the government shutdown. And at the beginning of those remarks, you heard him talking about his perspective as a Cuban immigrant who came to America and fleeing communism in Cuba, and his reaction to the election of Zoran Mamdani, the Democratic Socialist mayor-elect of New York City. But staying on the topic of the government shutdown, and we heard earlier just a little bit the tail end of the debate on the Senate floor between Senator Rick Scott from Florida and Senator Ed Markey of Massachusetts, a Democrat from Massachusetts. So I want to play for you that exchange, a few minutes long here from the Senate floor earlier today as they talked about the government shutdown and debated a number of topics, including measures for pay and that kind of thing. Again, this was just a little bit ago on the floor of the U.S. Senate.
Mr. President, this is an interesting conversation, but Democrats have had 37 days to stop the most important issue that this Senate should be focused on right now, and that's this shutdown. But they clearly rather spend their time playing politics and attacking the president, and so instead of doing what's best for the American public. Democrats have caused the longest government shutdown in our nation's history. For one reason, they hate our president. They hate him. They don't care that their actions are stopping our troops, Capitol Police, federal law enforcement, air traffic controllers from getting their paychecks. They don't care that they're causing chaos and delays at our airports, or that 42 million people rely on SNAP benefits who can't put food on the table. Now, I think about growing up. I was blessed, had a wonderful mom, but we lived in public housing. I don't know my dad. She really struggled to put food on the table. In my state of Florida and all across the country, we have people worried about putting food on the table right now. Little kids are worried about getting a dinner tonight. And it's because the Democrats have decided to shut down our government. So I represent the people of Florida and Americans across this country who are sick and tired of these political games. What we ought to be doing is feed our families, pay the people that are working their tail off, and open our government. Therefore, I object.
Mr. President.
Objection is heard. Senator from Massachusetts.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, it is telling that the Republicans have objected with an unrelated bill. This is a classic Republican move. They're scared of supporting anything critical of Donald Trump, but they don't want to defend his actions at the same time. So they object and pivot to an unrelated issue. But don't be fooled. Senate Republicans just blocked a...
I'm shocked that my colleague doesn't want to worry about the people, the 42 million people that are not getting SNAP benefits, the Capitol Police that are protecting us that aren't getting paid. These people have mortgages and they ought to get paid. So, Mr. President, I rise today with my bipartisan and common sense No Budget, No Pay Act. It's a simple proposal that says if members of Congress can't complete one of our basic jobs of funding the government, we shouldn't get paid. This shouldn't even be necessary. We should just do our jobs. But as we sit here over a month into the Democrat shutdown, it's clear we need something to hold Congress accountable. Every year we're tasked with putting together a budget with the expectation that it is on time and fits the needs of the American people. The American people elected us to come together. Look at what we're collecting in revenues and put together and pass 12 appropriation bills that used those dollars effectively. I was governor of Florida. Every year we passed a budget and we balanced the budget, and we did it on time. The last time Congress passed all 12 appropriation bills on time was, what's your guess? 3 decades ago. Congress has failed time and time again to do its most basic job. I came to the Senate to fix this. I ran on a plan to make Washington work better for families, which included my No Budget, No Pay Act. And I've been fighting to get this passed since I got here in 2019, and I've been met with resistance from many of my colleagues since I got up here. But unfortunately, Democrats have thrived in the dysfunction and have fought endlessly to keep the status quo. They passed massive spending bills after massive spending bill, which has caused massive inflation in this country. They've raised taxes and expanded government. We now have, Mr. President, how much debt do you think we have now? $38 trillion. We're running $2 trillion a year deficits. Now they're using the same dysfunction to shut down our government. They're prioritizing a liberal wish list of the needs of the American people. And they're more than happy, it seems, to deprive federal workers, TSA, FAA, and law enforcement of their paychecks, while members of Congress still get their own paychecks. Democrats are happy to stop 40 million people from getting their SNAP benefits. I just can't imagine, little kids worried about where their meals are going to come tonight. These Democrats voting to shut down government are still getting paid. We should not get paid if we don't do our job. There's a problem with Washington. Any working American will tell you that if you don't do your job, you don't get paid, except here. Members of Congress consistently fail one of our basic duties of funding the government on time and still get a paycheck, even when others don't. Senate Democrats have now voted against funding the government 14 times in the last 5 weeks. They voted time and time again to continue the longest shutdown in our nation's history and stopping people from getting paid. But they're still getting paid. Democrats shouldn't be shutting down the government and risking others' paychecks without being in the same boat. I ask every one of my colleagues to support passage of my No Budget, No Pay to tell every member, do your job, fund the government, or do what other people end up doing, forego your taxpayer-funded salary. I ask unanimous consent that the Committee on Homeland Security and Government Affairs be discharged from further consideration of S-88 and the Senate proceed to its immediate consideration. I further ask that the bill be considered, read a third time and passed, that the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Is there objection?
Mr. President, I reserve the right to object.
Senator from Massachusetts.
And I agree with my colleague, for sure, that during a government shutdown, lawmakers should not be paid. And that's why I'm having my pay deferred during this period. But the real answer to this shutdown isn't to withhold pay from lawmakers. It's for Republicans to stop holding the health care of Americans hostage for millions of Americans, including 337,000 people in my home state. It's for the House Republicans to return here to Washington. They're in a political witness protection program right now back in their home states. They should come here and negotiate on these issues. We're seeing the consequences of this Republican shutdown every day: reduced SNAP benefits, canceled flights, rising health care costs. So enough already. Let's sit down. We can open the government and protect the health care of all Americans with one vote on the floor. So my Republican colleagues, they're kind of twisting themselves into knots, trying to use the shutdown to block my free speech resolution. That is ridiculous. We should have the vote on free speech. And because of that, Mr. President, I object.
Objection is heard.
Mr. President.
Senator from Florida.
I want to commend my colleague for deferring his paycheck. I think it's the right thing to do. If he's willing to defer his paycheck, why wouldn't he allow my bill to pass that all of us should defer our paychecks until government gets open again? The right thing to do is open the government and figure out how do we improve our healthcare system. Our healthcare system is out of control. The costs are out of control. Obamacare has completely failed us. Remember when Obamacare was passed? President Biden said, oh, you won't lose your doctor. Biggest lie of the year. Oh, gosh, you're not going to lose your plan. You completely lost your plan. Oh, you're going to save $2,500 a family. No, your costs have skyrocketed. Your co-payments are up. Your deductibles are up. Your premiums have skyrocketed. And so what we've got to do is we need to sit down in a bipartisan manner and say, how do we actually fix the cost of health care? You don't do it by shutting down government and making sure our military doesn't get paid, our TSA doesn't get paid, our FAA doesn't get paid, our Capitol Police doesn't get paid, all of our federal workers don't get paid, and we prevent 42 million people from getting food stamps benefits. If we want to fix health care, which we should do on a bipartisan matter, we should sit down and do that once we open the federal government. So I'm disappointed that my colleague, I'm commending him for deferring his paycheck. It's the right thing to do, but we should do that for every member of Congress until we open our government.
That was Senator Rick Scott and his back and forth with Senator Markey earlier today. Now, just a few minutes before that, we also heard from Florida's other U.S. Senator, Ashley Moody, speaking on the floor of the U.S. Senate. She spoke briefly about the government shutdown. Here's what she had to say.
I've committed to donating my own paycheck during this shutdown to a crisis center back in Florida. And I'm glad to know there are others that have committed to donating their pay during this time to help others. The American people did not send us here to let the government shut down and stop working. And our colleagues that are forcing this upon the American people and on our workers do so against the will of the people, against those that put them in office, against the wishes of even workers' groups that have historically supported Democratic candidates. We were sent here to do important work and govern in good faith on behalf of the people. Americans should be furious at the display of recklessness with their country. I understand the president's frustration. I understand our leaders' frustration. I am livid. I've been here 10 months. It is no wonder people across America hate D.C. We have much work to do to make this country stronger and safer. So I urge my colleagues to end this shutdown. Stay here until we get it done. Stay here until we pass the clean continuing resolution so we can continue the people's work. And while we're at it, let's pass legislation to make sure this cannot happen again. We could start with the No Budget, No Pay Act, meaning none of us here in Congress get paid unless we pass a budget and fund the government. That's common sense. Senators and representatives shouldn't be paid until Congress does its base level job. We should also pass legislation to make sure that those in Congress don't leave D.C. until we deliver and we keep government functioning. That's why I'm co-sponsoring the Eliminate Shutdowns Act and other legislation that would make sure this does not happen again and ensures that our government remains open. And those heroes that put their lives on the line for us get paid. We owe it to the American people to ensure the government remains open, and we should not have another shutdown period. 37 days of chaos, uncertainty, and dysfunction is a disservice to the Americans we are here to represent, and this must end. Government must work for the people. If showboating politicians begin sabotaging the very operation of our government, corrupting rules, warping those rules' intended use to satisfy a subversive agenda, all options need to be on the table. Those options can take many forms, but this cannot continue. And maybe I should put this in terms that even my Democratic colleagues can understand. Maybe the Senate needs to reimagine the filibuster. Let's make Congress work again. And until we can do that, maybe we need to lock Congress in the Capitol until that happens. No bail, no revolving Capitol door. Let's get it done, Mr. President. I yield back.
Senator Ashley Moody there saying maybe the Senate needs to reimagine the filibuster, not a complete endorsement of the President Trump's idea to get rid of the filibuster completely, but interesting to hear her say that. We know that is an ongoing discussion. Some are supporting the push, wanting the Senate to get rid of the filibuster, enact what they call the nuclear option, and get rid of that and reopen the government. That would, at that point, after getting rid of that, would need only a simple majority, which the Republicans do have. in the Senate. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. Robin Severance Lopez was in court this morning in Lake County. She is facing charges in connection with an alleged illegal gambling ring that also led to the suspension of her estranged husband, Marcos Lopez, who was the sheriff in Osceola County. Several others facing charges in connection with that as well. You may have seen our conversation earlier with Fox 35's Marley Capper, who was live inside the courtroom during that hearing today, where we learned that Severance Lopez turned down a plea deal, basically ending negotiations with prosecutors that would have kept her out of prison. We also learned that her trial date would be pushed back. I want to play for you that full hearing, about 10 minutes long. You're going to hear the state and defense attorneys talk about that plea deal and a number of other things. This was in Lake County Court earlier today.
There we are. So this is 25 CR 1479. Do you need to have to talk to the client? All right, so what are we doing?
I just submitted this is asking to move the trial date back to December. This week we reviewed two new discovery exhibits, dates 10th and 11th, which includes 6 new witnesses and a half of a terabyte of digital discovery that we received yesterday. So we need to automatically review that before the trial.
comment from the state?
Yes, Your Honor. Coda Papakos for the Office of Statewide Prosecution in Tampa. If the defense is asking for a continuance, we would ask that the court treat it as a waiver of speedy trial. I understand that we've had some discussions back and forth. I was informed yesterday that Mrs. Severance Lopez is going to be rejecting the plea offer in this case, so I did want the court to inquire about that before anything is reset.
Why isn't mine? No. Listen, I understand. So, this year, are you waiving speedy?
Your Honor, my client would like to go to trial in December. Still be intact.
Yes or no?
No, Judge.
Okay. So listen, there's a lot of evidence here. I'm not going to push the defense to waive speedy. If they want to go to trial in December, we'll go to trial in December. So I will grant the continuance. We'll go to, what does December 8th look like?
Your Honor, if we could perhaps set this for the PNC on December 2nd with Marcos Lopez's trial as well, so they're both addressed at the same time.
Well, we can. They'll both be at PNC.
Okay.
But we need to set it for trial.
Understood, Your Honor.
Mr. Lopez's case isn't set for trial yet, right?
Correct.
So, what's that? Well, I know, but I don't, I'm going to push this a week forward to come, because Speedy, I believe, the 18th, does it run on the 18th?
Yes, that sounds about right.
So I'll set this for trial on the 8th, December 8th. Can I have that sheet again that you just gave? I've got it. That is the 12-4 PTC. Now, do we change it? It's 12-10. It's 12-10. This is changed. December 10th, 1 o'clock. No, we can't. We're going to have to set a special pretrial. Let me just look at the... Well, why don't we do the pretrial on the 2nd? No, that's not. Those are going to be, and we can do that. We're not going to hear any motions at that time, so if we need to set, are there going to be any motions that need to be heard before the trial?
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Are there going to be any motions?
The state did file a motion limine. I had sent it over to defense counsel to see if she had any objections. If the state could be heard for a moment on the issue of speedy, at this point, defense counsel has represented that she's not ready, which would constitute a waiver of speedy trial. She has had an opportunity to seek the discovery that we provided for her convenience and sent it over expedited, but that discovery has always been noticed and available. Those phone extractions have always been part of the discovery and have been discussed in the multitude of reports that were discovered in this case. At this point, Your Honor, we would ask that the court reset the trial for a later date, not in December. We're talking about holding over subpoenas. We have HSI agents in various states that we would be bringing here. We were prepared to begin the trial on November 10th and proceed, but at this point, we would ask that the court set it not in December.
Yeah, I understand your request, but again,
not going to force them to speedy. We're at the end here for the time period, so I'm going to set that for the 8th. And we'll have pre-trial. You can do it remotely during the PNC on December 2nd. So if we need hearing time, when, is that the only thing you anticipate as a motion in limine?
Yes, Your Honor, that's what I found.
Have you reviewed that yet?
Yes, I reviewed the motion in limine. It was essentially asking to follow the rules of evidence, so I don't think we're going to have any objection to that.
Okay. So we might even be able to take care of that the morning of the trial.
Yes, Your Honor.
So we're gonna leave it there. And anything else?
Would the trial be for the 2-week period of December 10th?
No, we're going to start it on the 8th. Because my normal trial period is the 15th and the 22nd, and so I'm going to move this trial up a week. All right, anything else?
Mr. Honor, I would ask that the court inquire of Mrs. Severance Lopez regarding her rejection of the state's plea offer after negotiations this week.
And you've reviewed that with your client?
Yes.
So, Ms. Lopez, let me get you to raise your right hand. You swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. Okay, you can put your hand down. So have you reviewed this plea agreement with your attorney? And you went over it with your attorney? And you read it, you completely understood it?
Not right.
Okay, how was it? What was the form?
Your Honor, the offer was conveyed to statewide prosecution on Tuesday, November 4th by Ms. Yard, defense counsel. For purposes of the record, Ms. Severance Lopez, with both of her cases before this court, will score at the bottom 21.5 months in the Department of Corrections. In the course of the negotiations this week with Ms. Yard, she did approach us with an offer to resolve this case, and her offer included a withhold of an adjudication, pleas to both felonies, and 12 months probation, court costs, and costs of prosecution. We explained that we would not be willing to withhold adjudication on these cases. However, we would be willing to reduce, or were willing to reduce, the conspiracy to a third-degree felony money laundering and leave her second charge of the misrepresentation at a bond hearing the same, so that she could plead to 2 third-degree felonies in exchange for an adjudication, court costs, 24 months of probation, investigative costs, and that she would provide a truthful statement. There was some discussion. The only thing that hung up the course of the negotiation was the adjudication, and so I was informed late yesterday that Mrs. Lopez was going to reject the offer entirely.
Okay. And is that what you understood, Ms. Lopez? Right, and Ms. Yard, you discussed all the pros and cons with your client?
Yes, Judge. The state had asked us what she would be willing to resolve the case for. We made that offer, and it was rejected, countered by the state. Their counter has been rejected by Ms. Lopez.
All right. So everybody knows where we stand. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
At a hearing earlier today in Lake County, where you heard the discussion of the details of that plea deal that were turned down by Robin Severance Lopez. She will now head to trial. That trial date is scheduled for December 8th. There will be another pretrial conference before that, the week before, to see and make sure everything is still on track. So things delayed by about a month because that original trial date was scheduled for Monday in Lake County. So now about a month that this will be continued. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. It is a big day for Orange County Mayor Jerry Demings, set to announce his run for governor. He filed officially last Friday on Halloween, and set to make that announcement later today at the Rosen Center on I-Drive in Orlando. A rally is set for 5 o'clock, I believe. He was also on Good Day Orlando this morning to talk about his run for governor. Here's what he had to say.
Let's start with the decision to run. As you know, this is a big decision. So what was it that got you into this race?
It is a big decision. I've been very prayerful about the decision that I made. But what got me into the race was a drumbeat of individuals from across Florida who came to me and who convinced me that I should get in this race and I should run. I'm humbled by that because I've been a public servant now for the last 4.5 decades. And so that's really my passion, is working on behalf of the people. And because of so many people who feel that there should be a change in the direction of leadership that Florida is currently going in, I'm humbled that they believe that I'm the person that can be the change that they want to see. And so I'm going to use the sum total of all of those years of experience as I run to be the 47th governor of the great state of Florida.
Mayor, let's talk about a couple issues you see as the biggest hot button issues. I know I've spoken to you a lot. Housing affordability is at the top of the list for you. What are 2 of the 3 issues you're really going to focus on?
Well, outside of the high cost of living, we've got to do something to bring the cost of living down in Florida and to normalize that. I believe that as we work to diversify our economy with high-wage jobs and to create pathways for individuals to maybe begin at entry-level jobs and then move up the ladder, is something that I will truly focus upon during my administration. But also, the fundamental reason that government exists is to keep the people safe. There will not be another candidate in this race that will have the broad experience that I have in terms of a crisis managing during the toughest times that people can be confronted with. Over the years, because of being police chief, sheriff, public safety director, and even now as a mayor, I've been challenged to lead during some of the toughest times, during terror attacks, during barricaded gunman situations, to dealing with hurricanes, to dealing with a global pandemic. I've been boots on the ground, and because of that experience, there's no substitute for that. I'm well-trained, well-experienced, and I'll bring that to the table as governor of Florida.
So over the last few years, as you know, Florida has become much more difficult for a Democrat to win a statewide race. As of October, registered Republicans outnumber Democrats. That's now 1.4 million is the gap. How do you overcome that trend looking at the next 9 months?
Well, first you have to realize that there are more other people in Florida who are not registered Republicans than who are Republicans. And as a result of that, I will try to make certain that my appeal is not just to Democrats, but to people. I want to be the people's governor. And just as I have done as mayor, I'm in a nonpartisan role now. I've always had bipartisan support, even when I was in a partisan role, elected as sheriff. I've never met people who are looking for services to say, I've never asked them, are you a Democrat, are you a Republican? I just want to take care of the people. And so that is what I will focus upon, as being a unifier. We are now all living during a period in which we see toxic partisan politics. The average person is tired of that. They just want people to lead and do what is called upon them to do, to take care of the people.
Let's finish with this. Your thoughts on the race. We know David Jolly is in on the Democratic side. Congressman Byron Donalds, Speaker Renner on the Republican side. It could get more crowded, maybe the First Lady. So your thoughts on the race, and then you're the mayor of Orange County now. How will that be impacted by this decision?
Well, there's a lot of people going to be in this race. At the end of the day, there will likely be 2 persons who will have to battle it out. Whoever the nominee is for the Democratic Party, whoever the nominee is for the Republican Party. I intend to be one of those 2 people, and then I intend to win the election and become the 47th governor. In terms of what will happen in this next year, I intend to continue being the Orange County mayor and running for governor, running statewide at the same time. I'm going to honor the commitment that I made to the people of Orange County when I got elected for the second term, that I will run through the finish line. My term ends in December of 2026. The governor is sworn in January of 2027.
That was Orange County Mayor earlier today on Good Day Orlando. Now, I should note that we've been hearing from a number of the candidates in the governor's race. Yesterday, we had former Republican Congressman David Jolly, who is now a Democratic candidate for governor, going to be facing off against Jerry Demings in the Democratic primary. We had him live in our streaming studio here with us yesterday at 2 o'clock on our show Florida Live. If you missed that, you can watch that right now on fox35orlando.com on Fox Local. We had Congressman Byron Donalds, one of the Republican candidates, via Zoom live during our 11 o'clock hour on Fox 35 News Plus. We'll have that again for you coming up in just a few minutes, about half an hour or so. In our 2 o'clock hour, we'll replay that. You can also watch it live right now on fox35orlando.com and on the Fox Local app. We also spoke recently with Paul Renner, the former Florida House Speaker, Republican candidate for governor. We had him live in our streaming studio as well, maybe a week or two ago, I believe that was. He also held a rally, or an event, I should say, yesterday in Naples, where he unveiled a health freedom initiative that looks at ending vaccine mandates and increasing nutrition in schools. And here is a little bit of what he had to say at that event yesterday in Naples.
Well, good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I want to thank Alfie Oaks and Seated Table for hosting us. And I want to say a special thank you to Stand for Health Freedom and for their endorsement. It means the world, and it's an organization that leads the state and the nation in promoting health freedom, parental rights, and healthy habits for life. When I was in the legislature, the most unexpected and serious challenge we faced was COVID. We witnessed so-called public health experts that tried to micromanage every aspect of our lives, including personal health choices. Those who objected faced reprimand, firing, and even arrest. As governor, I can promise you I will never allow another COVID-type assault on our civil liberties. While I was Speaker of the House, we took a strong stand for health freedom and against the COVID regime, but there's more to do. As governor, I will end vaccine mandates. I will protect children's medical and physical and mental health, embrace policies that help prevent disease rather than react to it. We will stand strongly in support of parental rights and health care. When I was a child, we had a small number of vaccines for some of the worst illnesses. But today, the CDC recommends and the Department of Health mandates dozens and dozens more. As a result, children get vaccines at too early an age and sometimes get multiple vaccines in a single visit. As governor, we will put parents in the driver's seat to have that conversation with their pediatrician to decide whether or not they have a vaccine, and we will eliminate vaccine mandates in the state of Florida. We will also collect information on vaccine injuries and adverse reactions because good science starts with accurate information. While I was Speaker, we passed historic data privacy protections, and as Governor, I promise you we will have the strongest protections for healthcare privacy in the country. You'll hear this morning from Patty Sullivan regarding important parental rights legislation that's before the state legislature in Tallahassee this session. And parents and only parents should be making the important healthcare decisions, medical and mental health care decisions for their children, and we will always stand with parents against self-declared experts that seek to replace them. As a father of young children, I've got a 5 and a 3-year-old, a daughter and a son. I know that a successful day starts with a good night's sleep and nutritious meals as well as plenty of exercise. So to support healthy kids in our schools, we will partner with our farmers to make sure they get nutritious meals from the farm to the cafeteria. We will make sure that we remove harmful ingredients from our foods and also have an exercise challenge for all of our K-12 students in the governor's physical fitness program. Many of you remember the physical fitness test we had as presidential. I don't know that they do it anymore, and it was great. It kept us exercising. But meanwhile, children face monumental threats to their mental health. When I was Speaker, we passed some of the strongest legislation in the country to protect them from online predators and psychological harm. But the unregulated use of AI is a new threat, and we must put responsible guardrails around AI in schools. So to that end, we will make sure to require a parental opt-in for the use of AI. We will protect students' personal information. We will limit use of AI for classroom use only and require that any AI platform is consistent and conforms with Florida law and state standards. And that's just the beginning. Those are some minimum standards. And separately, we will make sure to promote preventative care and lifetime wellness. So as governor, we will provide more options to alternative care, such as naturopathic, nutritional, and functional medicine. We will promote wellness in the workplace, and we will ensure that our air and drinking water is clean and free of toxins. And finally, we need to repeal Obamacare. And I know there's been a lot of Republicans that have kind of taken a step back and said we need to work with it and reform it. I disagree. The so-called Affordable Care Act has become nothing but unaffordable. It should be repealed so health care decisions return to us in the state and we can deliver lower cost and improved access and quality for every Floridian. Obamacare is full of the same mandates that we oppose, and it was written by the same people that gave us COVID lockdowns. And so we need to repeal it and free the health care system from one of its main cost drivers and make sure health care is delivered here in the state of Florida and with free people making those decisions. When I'm governor, I will lead the nation in health freedom, and we will provide people more options to live a long and healthy life by promoting preventative care and wellness, protecting privacy and parental rights, and ending mandates. Free people provided with transparency and accurate information know better than anyone else how to make informed choices about their own health. And I look forward to joining each of you as we reach our goal to make kids healthy, families healthy, and Florida healthy. God bless you guys.
Paul Renner speaking yesterday in Naples. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I want to get you back live to the Oval Office where we are hearing from President Trump, some other officials. This is the HHS advisor or deputy administrator you heard from earlier today. But President Trump has been answering questions from reporters. Just a couple of minutes ago was talking about tariffs, said if the Supreme Court rules against him on those tariffs, it could be a devastating ruling. We know they heard oral arguments yesterday in the case of those tariffs. So let's go ahead and listen in live as the president takes questions at the White House.
Results from these drugs. What real-world impact do you think this will be? Is there an estimate on how many Americans may now take these drugs? And also about the informed consent on side effects. There are lawsuits against these companies that some people experienced damage to their gut health, vision loss, and other potentially serious side effects there. So how will we ensure Americans are able to make the best choice of the risk versus the rewards?
Well, I'll let them speak about the side effects, but I've heard about very little side effects with respect to these drugs. I mean, it's all positive, and that's usually not the case. I mean, usually you hear bad things. You see these crazy commercials on television where they tell you 15 different things that can go wrong, and then you're supposed to buy it. Very few, but I'll let you handle that.
At a high level, 1 in 3 people who can hear my voice are eligible for these medications. That's the magnitude of impact. And we believe, just to reemphasize, we will actually save the American taxpayer money if people use these drugs appropriately for the duration for which they're indicated. There are always going to be side effects of anything strong enough to help you, strong enough to hurt you. The question is the trade-off worth it? We know the ravaging risks of obesity and all downstream issues ranging from diabetes and hypertension to renal failure, dementia, heart disease, my specialty. But I'll ask Dave Ricks from Lilly to maybe start off because he can give an honest appraisal of potential risks people should be aware of. There's no free cheese.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I mean, today, as you may know, there's about 8 million people benefiting from the 2 companies' medications. This new announcement will make that tens of millions that could benefit from it. So it's a huge improvement. But as the previous question, we need commercial plans and other insurers to step into this arrangement. I think probably both companies will work hard to make sure that happens. Yeah, as Dr. Oz said, no drug that can help you has no side effects. Most of them are well known. We've been using this class of medications for nearly 20 years. And that's why it's important that patients go to their doctor and decide together whether this is right for them, and their doctor knows their medical history and has the information about these medications. But we're confident in the safety, but there's always some precautions we should have, and people's own medical histories matter in that decision.
And are there any estimates for...
What I would like to say is also that, of course, in my speech I made a comment that what happened today allows us and Lilly to provide medications to millions and millions more than they are getting it today. Today, a lot of those patients are trying to go out there and take the knockoff versions of these medications, mainly because they were cheaper than our medication. With the reduction of the price, hopefully many of these patients don't need to choose their safety over their wallet and now are able to find the real thing at a very decent price.
Is that a big problem for you, knockoffs? Sounds like it might be.
It has been, yes. It has been. But on the other hand, of course, patients have to be able to afford it. So it has been also our job to make sure that affordability.
Are the knockoffs dangerous?
The knockoffs are not FDA. The API, the raw ingredient that goes into them, are not FDA approved. So nothing is as good as the original.
Yeah, no, I know that.
Yesterday in the Supreme Court, Chief Justice Roberts said that tariffs are taxes and that they're paid by Americans. He said this pretty clearly. And yet you're saying that this money is rolling in from other countries. How do you square those two?
Well, it is. It's coming in because they've charged us. You know, those same countries that you talk about are charging us massive amounts of money. If you look at the tariffs over the years that were put on our heads, there's a reason we're $38 trillion owed. Now that money's going to start coming down. But we had presidents that didn't know how to use tariffs. We had presidents that had no understanding of business. But if you take a look at what's happened to us, every country charges tariffs. China, the European Union was brutal. They charged us tariffs, not only tariffs, they charged us tariffs so we couldn't sell cars there. We couldn't sell our product. They didn't want our agriculture. They didn't want our cars. Now they're taking our cars, and now they're taking our agriculture. far more than money. It really is a defensive mechanism. If we didn't have tariffs, we would be unable to defend ourselves.
So then, do you agree then that Americans are paying those tariffs?
I think, no, I don't agree. I think that they might be paying something, but when you take the overall impact, the Americans are gaining tremendously. They're gaining through national security. Look, I'm ending war because of these tariffs. Americans would have to fight in some of these wars. They're gaining in national security. They're gaining in economics. They're gaining in so many different ways. And they're gaining in self-respect for our own country. Other countries used to laugh at us. They would charge us tariffs. Japan was charging us massive tariffs, and yet they wouldn't allow our cars to be sold in Japan. But they were selling 9 million cars here, but they wouldn't allow one car. Not one car was sold in Japan. They don't laugh at us anymore. This is really a matter of, this is national security. And by the way, going bankrupt is national security. Our country was really in trouble. Going bankrupt, and the difference between going bankrupt and thriving, that's also national security. When you go bankrupt, when you don't have any money, you have no national security. And we are thriving. I mean, all this money coming into our country that I told you about, the 17 trillion as of now, but it's going up rapidly. I was in Japan, and we have Toyota is coming in with $10 billion to build plants, operated by Americans, but building plants all over the United States. Well, they left. They took our plants. They sold cars in here without tariffs. They sold cars. We didn't charge them anything. They destroyed our auto industry. We lost 50%, 54% of our auto industry to other. We used to, if you go back into the 30s and 40s, we had 100% of the automobile business. Then it started getting chopped away. But Mexico, Canada, many countries, Canada fought us very hard. The ones that don't want us to win are foreign countries that we are able now to do very well with. Those are the ones that fight it. Those are maybe people that hate our country. I think it's the most important case maybe in the history of our country.
This has been a major achievement for your administration, targeting the segment of our population that needs it the most, that has the highest obesity rates. You're making it affordable. You are truly saving lives. That's coming from the viewers that we've had in that 1 hour that we took a little bit of a break. My question to you is, Walmart just pushed out a report that says this year's traditional Thanksgiving meal will cost 25% less than it did under the Biden administration, plus gas prices being down in the $2 region makes it more affordable to travel to grandma's house this Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much. And I read, it's not so much a question, it's a statement. I would have made the statement, but we have a lot of things happening, so I wouldn't necessarily have made it right now. So Walmart, to me, that's AAA, came out that nobody going to influence them. I don't know them. But they just came out with a very powerful statement. They've done it for many years, that under the Biden administration, Thanksgiving meal, a Thanksgiving meal with all the trimmings, cost 25% more. In other words, our Thanksgiving this year coming up will cost 25% less than sleepy Joe Biden's. Now, to me, that's better than anything there is. That's better than a poll. They've got everything included, from the trimmings and from the turkey and from everything, a lot of different items. It's 25% less this year than it was last year when he was so-called in charge. He wasn't in charge. The people around the desk were in charge. The auto pen was in charge. That is a big factor. And I was angry last night with the Republicans. They say, you don't talk about this stuff. Nobody talks about it. I rely on a question from a reporter to get that out. We should be talking about it because they talk about affordability. They don't have affordability. We had the highest inflation in the history of our country under Biden. We had high gasoline prices at $4.50, $5 a gallon. They're going to be hitting $2 a gallon with me. They're getting close to $2 a gallon. And when gasoline goes down and energy goes down, everything else follows. What the Democrats do is they lie. We are the ones that have done great on affordability. They've done horribly on affordability. The only thing is they go out and they take commercials how under the Democrats you have affordability. It's just the opposite. We have much lower prices than they do. And we only have one thing, beef, because the cattle ranches are doing well. We're going to bring the beef prices down, and they understand that, even if we have to help them out. But the beef also is not a big difference, but every price is down. The biggest price is energy. We're at almost $2 for gasoline, and you take a look at where they were at $4.50, $5 for gasoline. And when gasoline and energy comes down, everything else follows. And I was so happy. Last night I made a speech, and then I get off the stage. I said, I feel like going up and saying it, because I have a lot of respect for Walmart. And nobody's...
President Trump continuing to take questions right now in the Oval Office. Talking a lot about tariffs and a number of things there as he speaks with the drug makers of some of those weight loss drugs that they announced that deal with earlier. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but keep it here on Fox Local, because we'll be back at the top of the hour with Florida Live, and we will welcome in our TV audience and